Hello everyone, we're back once again here in Thavnair for me to give you some tips. These are very general tips, so hopefully these go a lot better than my Red Mage video, which there's some problems with that. But these are tips that I think not really anyone can argue with. I have 4 healer tips for you today. 3 of them are applicable to all healers, and one of them is White Mage exclusive, but most people healing for the first time are going to be White Mage, so that's fine. We'll save that one for last, in case you just don't want to play White Mage. You can skip that tip completely. So, tip number 1, do damage. You gotta do damage. This is kind of a weird thing to say, especially if you come from other MMOs where healers typically don't do damage, but in Final Fantasy, doing damage is just another one of the healer's jobs. Say you're running along with the tank in a dungeon, and they're pulling mobs wall to wall. That'll be mostly in higher level dungeons, but regardless, what you want to do is you want to be running with the tank, and as they grab aggro, you just pop arrow, or Dia as it turns into, on the enemies as you're running along. You just pop it on all of them. Once you hit level 45, you get Holy, the best spell in the entire game, and you can start spamming that once the tank stops and has all the mobs in one area. Holy is great, especially in trash mobs, because it stuns the enemy. Stuns them and they can't do anything. It's incredible. Unfortunately, the other healers, like Astro, they do not have that. They just had do damage. And you know, Sage has more than one AoE spell, but other than that, not much is going on. And I just want to say real quick, these tips can be used no matter what your skill level of healer is. These tips can be used straight away in freaking Sastasha, at least some of them, more than others, but these aren't, you know, level 90 exclusive tips like my Red Mage video, which really was. These can be used by a healer of almost any level. So that's my first tip, and you'll hear this a lot when you look up healer guides in Final Fantasy. You'll hear them say, do damage. You gotta do damage, because enemies can't hurt the tank if they are dead, and healers in this game do a fair bit of damage. And Holy is such a useful spell because the enemies just can't attack your tank anyway, so you just spam Holy and you're good to go, and then they die. So that's the first tip, do damage. Second tip I have for you today is focus on off-global cooldown healing over global cooldown healing. Now this may sound strange if you don't know what those mean. Basically, global cooldown is any spell that activates the global cooldown where you can't use other spells. So if I use Cure 2 here, you'll see all these other spells that you can't use. Right? Like, say I use Glare right here. All those spells that spin are on the global cooldown. The spells like Tetragrammaton here, which don't do that, you can use off the global cooldown while the global cooldown is going. So if I cast Glare 3 here, you'll see that it wasn't finished doing a full cycle. Oh my god, that noise effect was so loud. It wasn't finished doing a full cycle by the time I finished casting it. That's because the cast time is only 1.46 seconds, and the recast time, which is the global cooldown, is 2.44 seconds. And you'll see that on any spell. Why are you so loud? And you'll see that on any spell with that is on the global cooldown, it'll say recast 2.44 seconds. If it doesn't say that, for example, Tetragrammaton here, which says 60 seconds, then it's off the global cooldown. Actually, that's not true. I think there are spells that have weird recast times that are on the global cooldown. You can actually tell if something's on the global cooldown or not by looking right under its name, and if it says spell, then it's on the global cooldown. If it says ability, then it's off the global cooldown. So if I cast Glare here, I can cast Tetragrammaton immediately, which is a heal. So say you are fighting a boss. The tank takes big damage and you're like, damn, I need to heal them. What you can do is cast Glare, so that you keep doing damage, heal them with Tetragrammaton, and then go back to using Glare. That way you're always doing damage. All of the first tip, where doing damage as much as possible is ideal. You'll find in this game there's not a lot of outgoing damage every second, so you can let the tank get relatively low before you have to start really pumping out heals. And off global cooldowns will get you farther than you think. Tetragrammaton's great. Plenary Indulgence gives an extra heal to your AoEs, so that's good when combined with Flatus Rapture. Divine Benison is a shield. Aqua Veil is a mitigation. You have all these tools off the global cooldown that you can use on the tank. So be sure to use those, and if the tank still needs more healing, don't be afraid to use your global cooldown heals like Cure 2. They're there for a reason after all. Regen is very powerful though on White Mage especially. A lot of the times in especially low level dungeons, you can just pop a regen and your tank will be fine for the entire time. You just pop a regen and go back to casting Glare or Stone as it is in low levels, but it is on the global cooldown. But when you're low level, you don't have very many off global cooldown heals, so regen's a great one. I hope that makes sense. I don't know. I'm not scripting this or anything. I just have, you know, like footnotes of my tips here, and then I'm just kind of going off script here, because whenever I script something, I sound terrible when I try to read off the script. It sounds so unnatural. So I usually just have like footnotes and then talk about it for a little bit. But I hope that makes sense. Off global cooldown heals. So like the hierarchy of healing, when you're healing your tank, you use off global cooldown heals, and if that isn't helping, then you use your instant cast. You can use like a Flatus Solus instant cast global cooldown, because that's very handy. It's just a free Cure 2, but you only get that at level 52, which is pretty early to be honest. And then you start focusing on, you know, hard spam Cure 2 if you run out of lilies, if you run out of off global cooldown heals, shields, mitigations, everything, then you can start Cure 2ing. Things get really bad, White Mage has an oh shit button of Benediction. Hopefully things don't get that bad. If you want a more in-depth guide about all your buttons, check out Weskalber. He has videos on all the healers, all the jobs actually, so that really helped me out when I was doing Sage, since Sage starts at level 70 and it starts with a lot of buttons, and then you get more buttons, and I'm just like, what do I do? These buttons are so weird, I don't understand them. The fucking paragraph here for one button. But he does a good job at explaining them, so check out Weskalber for your healer, and you can, you know, he'll explain every button individually, which is very nice. And Weskalber's guides are very beginner friendly. In fact, they are designed for beginners. So yeah, I'll link his channel in the description below. But for my third tip is, and this is gonna sound like a weird one to a lot of people, but just hear me out. I talked about this briefly in my Red Mage video, but my tip for you today is to stay near the boss. That's my third tip, stay near the boss. And this may sound counterintuitive. I'm a ranged class, why shouldn't I be out here away from the boss? What if the boss does a AoE around him and then I have to run away? Well, that's not really a big deal. First of all, like, if you don't have to stand right here, like in melee range. You can stand, you know, somewhere around here, just close enough. Say you have some melee right next to the boss, you just stand behind him. Simple as that, really. And the reason for that is this. You have AoE heals, right? If you're all the way out here, your AoE heals, like Medica 2, they might not hit the tank. They might not even hit the melee. You might only hit like a ranged player if they're, you know, around here somewhere. And Cure 3 especially, like if there's some huge damage coming out and you want to use Cure 3. Cure 3 only has a radius of 10 yobs. We can visualize that actually with Asylum, since that has the same radius. So say you use Cure 3. Here's the radius of it, right? If you're out here and you use Cure 3 on yourself, it's not going to hit anyone. Although Cure 3, you can use it on other people, so say there's a melee over there, you can use it on them, but now you're not going to get hit by it. So it's like, okay, if there's big raid-wide damage going out, you're going to want to hit yourself with your own heal, right? And everyone else. So, yeah, you know, you want to be close. You don't need to be right here, you don't need to be up against the boss, you don't need to be in their hitbox. just need to be relatively close. And then look at that. You can hit everyone, you can hit the tank, you can hit yourself. That's very good. Medica 2 has twice this radius, so that'll be fine, no problem if you're this close. Everyone's getting hit. Unless there's like a ranged player sitting in the corner over there, then they might not get hit, but they should be near the boss as well, to be honest. This is kind of a weird tip. I see a lot of people don't know this. I always see ranged players running around the arena, but I always hear, and this is advice that I've heard, this isn't something I've invented, I've always heard from other people, stay near the boss so that heals hit everyone and buffs hit everyone. Like let's look at Red Mage here. Back to my old friend Red Mage. Embolden only has a radius of 15 yalms. If I'm out here, way out here, like I can cast from way out here. Embolden, it ain't hitting anybody over there. So I'd want to use it here so it hits the tank and the melee. But if there's a ranged player way out there, they ain't getting hit. So everyone should stay relatively close together, usually, so that buffs hit everyone and heals hit everyone. When you're playing Black Mage, though, it is a bit more difficult to do this because you have long-ass cast times, and usually you start like this far away from the boss in the first place, and you want to start casting as soon as possible. So it is a bit difficult as Black Mage, but when I do my Black Mage opener, when I'm doing triple cast, I just run up here. The triple cast is part of an opener for Black Mage. At least the opener I know. So I just run up to everyone else while that's happening. But anyway, we're talking about healers in this video. So yeah, stay near the boss. You don't need to be up against them. The closer the better typically, but if the boss is doing like the boss is gonna do some melee wide AoEs, you can stay kind of out of it. That way you can while you're casting glare, here's an AoE I can get out real quick as my glare goes off, right? So that's a useful tip. That way you can hit everyone with your AoEs and everyone can hit you with their buffs, because buffs do help you as a white mage as well. Not only do more damage, but also pump out bigger heals. So yeah, so those are my 3 healer tips. This 4th tip is going to be White Mage exclusive. This is something that really is like a pet peeve of mine. But if you're not interested in White Mage, you don't want to play White Mage, you're like, I hate White Mage, I just want to play Astro, then you can, skip this part if you want. But if you want, you can also keep listening. I wouldn't say no to you watching more of my video. So White Mage, right? This happens a lot with new White Mages, not so much with high-level White Mages. But White Mage has this ability, right? This trait, you could say, that they get at level 32. This trait is called Freecure. Now, at first glance, this might sound great. Wow, a 15% chance after casting Cure 1 that I can get a free Cure 2? Cure 2 costs so much MP, that sounds fantastic. But actually, it's really, really not. Even at low levels, when you don't have all your other, heals, and you don't have Thin Air, it's still not worth it. Cure 1 gives a very small heal relative to Cure 2, which gives a big heal. Not only that, but at level 35 you get Regen, which is a bigger heal total than even Cure 2, at the same cost as Cure 1. So, what is the point of this free Cure trait? I'm not sure. You'll hear this a lot, especially in White Mage tips specific to White Mage. You'll hear people say, don't use Free Cure, it's a bait trait. And it really is, it's bait. It's there to bait new players into using Cure 1. I don't know why it still exists. It was known to be bad and not worth it, even in Shadowbrainers when I started playing. So why didn't they devs remove it or change it to make it better? 15%. Think about this for a second. 15%. That means you're going to need to get at least 6 or 7 casts of Cure 1 on average to get 1 free Cure. So you're already wasting a lot of MP just trying to get Cure 2, a free Cure 2, when you could just do Cure 2 plus a regen, and that'll probably fix the problem, right? So there's no point in having free Cure. I will see, the tank is taking a lot of damage, and a new White Mage will just be spamming Cure 1. And it's like, just cast Cure 2 a couple times and everything will be better, and then cast Regen. You know what I mean? And not only that, but once you get to level 52, Afflatus Solus, that's a free Cure 2 already. just costs a lily. Tetragrammaton, almost as good as Cure 2, instant cast off the global cooldown. The size, it's only 100 potency less than Cure 1, and it gives you MP, so you don't need to really worry about MP. In fact, you don't need to worry about MP at all. White Mage MP was only horrific when Endwalker launched, but it's better, much better now. You just use Lucid Dreaming and you're good to go. That's it. Lucid Dreaming and you're good to go. You can cast Cure 2 and you don't really need to worry about your MP. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but like you just do a little bit of math. If you cast Cure 1 7 times, that'll be 3,500 potency from the Cure 1s, plus the 800 from the Cure 2. So 4,300 potency. How much MP are you spending here? Spending 2,800 MP, right? So almost 3 Cure 2s. If you use Cure 2 3 times, yeah, it's not quite as much, but also you're casting way less. You're spending way less time healing. You're not going to need 4,300 potency usually. That things are getting real bad if you need 4,300 potency to keep the tank alive. And if your MP is really getting that bad, you gotta use Lucid Dreaming more. Man, you gotta use it more. And you gotta let your tank know to use their mitigation, because clearly you're not using mitigation if you're needing to cast Cure 1 for MP. for MP. Of course, there are exceptions to this. If you're like literally so low on MP and you have no Lucid Dreaming available, maybe Cure 1 can be the difference between life and death, although I would cast Regen first. Since that's a bigger heal overall than like anything that you have. But yeah, it's just not really worth it. 15% is such a low chance. Right? Here, let's cast it. See how long it takes. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got it at 7. As predicted. But you shouldn't need to use Cure 1 7 times, for God's sake. Regen and a Cure 2 can go a long way. And that's not even that much MP. 1,000 seems like a lot because you only have 10,000, but you do regenerate MP quite quickly. And with Lucid Dreaming, you get it very quickly. And with all the other spells you get along the way, Cure 1, very useless. I only keep it on my bar in case I get synced down to a duty below level 30, although that never really happens. But yeah, I would look more into this because I am horrible at explaining things. There are other resources out there. I think Weskalber talks about this in his White Mage video and why it's so bad, so I would recommend watching him, of course. I always recommend Weskalber, he's great. But yeah, Freecure, it's bait. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It's a bait trait. Don't use it. It's not worth it. Just use Cure 2, and that'll fix your problem straight away. You shouldn't need more than a Cure 2 most of the time anyway. And especially when you get to higher levels and you have way more tools. So yeah, thank you for watching. Those are my 4 tips. I'm sure someone will give me some new information about how wrong I am, just as they did with my Red Mage video, and I do appreciate it. If you do have an issue with anything that I've said here, please let me know. I'd love to, learn if I've made any mistakes. But these are just my 4 general tips for new healers and even old healers. The first one, very useful, especially if you're coming from another MMO like WoW, where healers don't do damage ever. The second one, pretty useful to know. It's just general advice, really. That's more optimization. The third tip, that's just trying to, be more useful to your party, because if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're trying to use AoE heals and no one's getting hit by them, then you're not really healing, are you? And the fourth tip, for white mages, I have a white mage tip in here because I think most people are going to be white mage, since it's the only healer that you can start straight from the beginning. So if you want to be a healer, you're probably going to be a white mage. And since Freecure is a trait that you get so early, I figured I might as well talk about it a little bit. But smarter people who are better with words than me I've talked about Freecure in the past, so I recommend looking into that more on your own if you're confused about anything I said. But yeah, those are my 4 tips. I hope you enjoyed. That's all. That's it. Keep on healing out there. Keep up the healing. Keep it up. Of course, if you're doing super casual content, these tips are not really all that necessary since casual content is so easy, but these are helpful. These are helpful to know. My voice is gonna explode here, so I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know any questions you have, anything you didn't understand, any disagreements, let me know. Love to talk about it. And if you're reading the comments and you see someone you disagree with, don't be afraid to communicate with them. Anyway, that's all. That's all. Thank you for watching. I hope these tips prove useful to you in your healing journey. If you want more resources out there, the balance is good. Weskalber is good for beginners. The balance for more advanced players who are doing harder content. So those are some resources to check out. I'll put those in the description below, I suppose. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.